Hey guys, what's up and welcome to another episode of The Good Cast Show. So this episode is brought to you in collaboration with the Women's Aid Organization, WAO, and today we're discussing safe schools. So I'm joined by two guests. The first is the very amazing Meera Samanther, a lawyer and a veteran women's rights activist. She's the longest serving president of WAO for 11 years and has also served as a president of the Association of Women's Lawyers, AWL, for 5 years. And we have a return guest in the form of Tamyra Selvarajan, who is the advocacy officer of Women's Aid Organization, WAO. She's passionate about feminism, LGBTQ plus advocacy, and human rights, and views it from an intersectionalist, socialist perspective. Wow, I'll get her to define that. So please, welcome to the podcast. So Tamyra, what is intersectional socialist? Please just share with us. What is that?
Yeah, okay. I want to know too.
Okay, basically, you know how socialism is. Socialism views society from a class perspective. So ideally, we also want to look at it from a perspective of race, of gender, indigenous rights, etc., etc. So integrating all of these perspectives
into... So there's new perspectives.
Correct.
More, okay.
Yes.
Unlike the narrow socialist. Anyway. So I'll start with you, Meera. According to the WAO, right, are our schools safe? What do you think?
It depends which schools you're talking about, but I think generally most schools are safe. There are pockets where, let's define what is safe school, okay? Any parent would want a child to go to a school where they feel secure,
okay,
happy to learn and share, want to be respected. So an environment that is free of any form of violence, harassment or bullying from not just their peers, but from their teachers too, from their principals. So it must be an environment that is nurturing. So, of course, there will be pockets anywhere of schools where perhaps they do not have attain that mark.
But now, is it a case of too many schools have producing so many cases? We have too many cases now?
I don't know whether there's enough data to say they've done a survey of all the schools. We hear cases like the one in Malacca and in Terengganu or Kelantan. Yeah. We hear pockets of it. It is not just but we also hear of schools where you have children with disabilities where bullying occurs. And mind you, that area people have not spoken about, which I think is very important because from the UNICEF report, I think the number of students with disability who are bullied or harassed is 2 or 3 times more than what you would find in regular schools.
Okay.
It's a report, but not data-based, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Tamyra, Meera is coming from the perspective of a parent. How about you as a younger person? How would you define safe schools?
For me, as a young person, I think I really concur with what Meera said. A safe school means it's a school that protects everybody. You know, as a child going to school, a school is like a second home for many. So, you know, to have that sense of protection, to have that sense of, hey, you know, I'm looking forward to going to school because I get to be with my friends. I don't have to worry about being bullied. I don't have to worry about being targeted. So it's a school that's safe for everyone, for students, from not only bullying from their peers, like Meera mentioned, but also bullying from teachers or senior staff as well. So definitely that is also very important when it comes to redefining what a safe school is for everybody.
Okay. So, Meera, what do you think is the source of these problems, of the increase in aggression? Where is it all coming from?
I think you have to look at different sectors, but I think it stems firstly from home. As a parent myself, I know that when you have, my children grew up in an environment where we spoke about what happened, having been in WA for so many years. So my children knew the struggles that many of the women in the shelter have gone through. So we used to have discussions about during a dinner table about what should have happened, how could we have helped. And if there is aggression at home, especially if how do you deal with conflicts? Parents, how do they deal with conflicts? And it is if it's through aggression, then children pick up these signs, and in later life, or in schools, they might, repeat that. So for me, it's very important that parents play an important role, but together with the schools to have clear, definite policies. And I know MOE has policies, but do the other children involved in different schools in coming up with policies themselves, that if you ask the children, have a discussion with the children, what do you think that will make you safe? What is it that you want? I think that's important to get that out from them itself. How would you want it changed? Those kind of discussions. And that is important. And then what are the messages are we sending on community messages about bullying, about what to do if you're a bystander? Don't just record.
Do something.
And then you put it on social media. Why don't you intervene? But I understand as an individual it's difficult sometimes because you don't know what kind of violence you might get. But if you are in a group, you should intervene. And so these are the tactics or suggestions. I mean, the kids in schools, primary, secondary, and university, they should be taught how do we intervene step by step. So it's not just having policies in place and that's it, constant discussion about respect, about gender equality. All this is integrated. And about not picking on those who are disabled too.
Or weaker than us.
Yeah. The reason why I talk a lot about disability is because I am the co-chair of the Bar Council's Committee on Persons with Disability, and this is an area that we're trying to push forward to have disability inclusion.
Now, before we move on, you mentioned something just now about how when a child sees aggression or violence at home, they pick it up and they sort of display what they see. But if we go back in time, when I was growing up when I was a kid, I'm sure you faced the same thing as well. We lived under the spare the rod, spoil the child type of upbringing.
Yeah.
Why is it our generations took this aggression and funneled it to the right places, whereas today, maybe even the lack thereof of such aggression, I don't know, is causing them to express it in such a violent manner?
I think that perhaps there was aggression during our time too, bullying. I mean, not your time, my time, going way back. It's just never surfaced. It was hidden under the carpet. Now with social media, we are more aware. People are aware of their rights and how it should be. They want to report on their rights and, digital accessibility. So I think it's always there, but
to the same degree?
Not necessarily. I mean, I have not read reports on the data from those days to now comparison, so not fair for me to say that. But I think it was there. It is just being brought forward, which I'm glad it's being brought forward. But now it is not just talking about it. How do you deal with it? What are the instruments or tools do you give all of us as parents? If your child is a bully, what is the instrument? What is it, the tools that you can give your child? How to, empathize with, what if it's you, my child, say for example, Jack, how would you feel if you were being bullied? What is the impact? So these are the conversations you can have, whether it's a parent or a teacher or the peers, among the peers, the students. Bullying comes in all sorts of forms. So, yeah.
Now, I want to still stay on that with you, Meera, but before that, Tamyra here, in our last interview, you blamed the manosphere and incel.
Not full blame, okay?
You blame us men, it's our fault, everything. So, please, how does the manosphere and this incel content promote aggression?
It does promote to a certain extent, of course. I mean, we cannot fully blame content online as a contributing factor to how our young behave. Instead, it's more of like how parents engage with children when it comes to viewing this kind of content. Like, hey, have conversations about, like Meera mentioned, parents should be more involved in their children's lives, especially when it comes to online activity. Manosphere content, incel content, like I mentioned in the previous episode that we did, it mainly focuses on like violence. It encourages violence. It encourages men to be more entitled with their feelings of aggression, of anything that is negative. And instead of channeling it in a more positive way, they take that entitlement, turn it around, and use it and project it in a negative way, which is why like it's very harmful.
Okay. So back to you, Meera. I'm trying my best here.
But this entitlement has always been there.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's a new word being used, my view, manosphere. And you find that not just in schools, but you find it in every profession having that too, entitlement, unless you dismantle patriarchy, which it's very difficult, but you can reduce that. So until then, we need to be more aware of it.
But just back to, I think both of you are saying this, said something similar. You talked about talking to people or to boys about how this content, can be used or whatever. And you also talked about, you read a story, you rated how, you were talking on the table, you just having discussions. So is it that now, could it be that there's a lack of nurturing at home that leads to these kids not being guided on how to use, how to express emotions properly? Could the answer be as simple as that?
Contributory factor.
Yeah.
It's not the end all. It's a contributory factor.
But doesn't it fall in the hands of the parents to raise a child? And as a child is born zero, a blank slate, we cannot then blame ministries and all this when we don't put the proper pieces together.
It takes a community, it takes a village to raise a child, as we say. It is not just the parent itself, because you cannot have a parent to be there 24/7.
Yeah, not now.
You're because parents both go out to work, you're raised to buy a domestic worker, then you go to childcare, what lessons do you learn in childcare, nursery? So I think everyone plays a part, and I will not blame parents solely. I don't think it's fair, but I think it's a contributory factor.
Okay. Another thing is, again, you mentioned about violence. Again, I don't see the manosphere and incel content as the only source of violence. I think we are surrounded by violence.
Yeah, of course.
We live in a world where violence is normalized, right? You open Netflix and you see violence everywhere, right? Isn't that also another reason why this is happening? We are normalizing violence. Violence has become just part of everyday life.
Actually, let me go back to you on that. Digital accessibility. When I go out for dinners or lunches and I see parents with children, young children, they have their gadgets and it's constantly on it. And then when it's dinner time, then they put it down and have dinner.
Sometimes even not. They still watch it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's not just the children, but I see young couples going on dates or what, and they're half the time on their their phones, and then I mean, so we in the Hal family too, we have I'm guilty of that. It happens to me sometimes, but my children say, I caught you now, So I think that awareness has to be there. I think that is harmful. That children are always constantly attached to their phones. I think my children would say, "Hey, Mom, you too." But it depends what the contents are, So what was your question again? I completely forgot.
No, is that we are normalizing violence, and that is why violence is just a go-to response to anything. It's everywhere. In their video games they play, in the movies we watch. It's
That's why digital, what's the word? Teaching them about, what's the word that you use? Digital, how do you use, what kind of content are you allowing your children to watch? Is there a restriction? Because I remember last time on the computer, we have, you can block out certain parental control. But I don't know whether I don't have young children, so I don't know whether that's being used by parents, and the phones too, whether you can control the kind of your access to it. So that is another way of, parents being responsible.
So in that case, I think I'll start with you, Tamyra. MOE is considering banning the use of smartphones in schools for those below 16 years. Is that a step in the right direction?
I would say banning smartphones, I think it's somewhat of a step in the right direction. However, I would say it's not the real solution to the problem.
Isn't it sending the right message that we won't tolerate phones being used by kids under 16? At least it's a start.
It's a start, but I wouldn't say it's the right kind of start. I wouldn't go as far as to saying that is the right approach, that is the right kind of start.
What is?
Maybe teaching children, schools and everyone, it's not just the gadgets that are at fault. I feel like people are very quick to blame, it's the phone, it's the TV, it's this, it's that. But at the end of the day, it's also the values that we have. Because back in those days, without any technology, there was still bullying. There was still all this aggression. So is it really just the phones? Is it really just
the content of the phone?
But what do you say to a child who is being harassed online when the phone? You see, because I tell you one big difference, and maybe you can join in on this, Meera, is that when in those days, when I was like, I think I was the last generation to grow up without a phone. If you had a problem with someone, I had to walk up to you and I had to say it to your face and bear the consequences. Smartphones remove consequences. Now I can just I hate you, go and die, things like that.
The misuse
of it. So by banning it, aren't we just... And the thing is, these negative emotions get pooled up in a person, and then they can fester and come on in any way.
That's true.
So by removing smartphones from kids who are below 16, you are protecting them from this world of social media that is a cesspool. Let's be honest, it's a cesspool. It can be very negative.
Yeah, that's true.
I think because other countries, they have banned it.
China.
Yeah, but okay, on the flip side, if you ban it in schools, and then what happens after school? They still have access to it.
Yep.
At home, they have access.
So I guess that comes back to our earlier discussion where it's the solution is a multi-stakeholder solution.
Correct.
So parents need to ban it in school, in homes as well, perhaps.
Correct.
But then a lot of them do use the phone for their work to find out more about a particular subject matter. So where do you draw the line? I mean, you have a laptop, you still can be harassed through the laptop. So I don't think it's a one-all solution. It has to be together to be done because you need action plan within schools, with parents, with community. The media has to play a very big role in this too. Because when the media reports an incident, are they the violence, is it the sexualized violence, is it being played up again? Are they coming up with, these are the steps that you have to do to stop the violence? These are the preventive measures. And these are the actions you should do. If you were a bystander, you should have come in and step forward and not just, what's the purpose of recording? What do you get from recording and seeing some violence? So I think
at the end of it, it's about the views.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the
so
thirst for the views.
the media needs to be responsible in that and be ticked off for that. Yeah. To a certain extent, I think so.
Yeah. No, I just think that why that would happen is because we live in a world with no consequence. For example, in fact, I interviewed somebody else who also said the same thing, that we need to charge even the people, bystanders who are recording it and sharing it for inappropriateness. But
aiding and abetting.
But do you think it's fair for us to even waste time or even invest any time in the idea that the media will act responsibly when they have stakeholders, shareholders and all that to answer to? At the end of the day, it's all about numbers, profit and bottom line. Isn't that a waste of our time?
No, never. It's never a waste of our time. I'll never stop advocating for media reporting justly. And I will never say it's a waste of time. Never.
See, this is why I love lawyers. Now, before we move on, and that whole term consequence, again, we touched on it a bit earlier. In our last interview as well, I think we talked about femicide, and then a lot of layers were put on a discussion. I think one of the questions that we were debating was that, are we putting too many layers on a discussion that hinders us to look straight at the solution? So in this case, when we talk about gender, when we bring the role of gender or the term gender into this sort of violence, are we again adding layers to this problem? Shouldn't we look at it as just a problem that children are behaving in the wrong way?
No, I mean, sorry, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I think sometimes we have to look at it as who the victims. If it's a female victim and a male victim, the female perpetrator and a male perpetrator, the aggressions differ sometimes. You can have a general, but the way a female aggressor plays out the violence could be different, and a male perpetrator. And similarly, the way a male victim and a female victim, the way kind of mental anguish they go through. Men do not cry, they hide, they do not want to show that they are. And if they go and report, they feel, oh dear, I should stand up, I'd be a man. Things like that. So I think the tools that you give for male, female aggressors and victims, I think sometimes it differs. And we have to look at that too. So your
Isn't
argument
that against
about
equality? If you want equal treatment, shouldn't we face equal consequences for it?
But you don't do. But the impact is maybe the same. But how do you deal with it with a girl or a male victim who does not want to report because he feels he's not being a man enough, So you want to deal with it in that manner. It is not about gender equality. It's going into the dynamics of why he's suffering in that way. Why does he not want to report? So gender equality is a terminology that we use that we all want to be treated with respect, regardless of gender, regardless of race, religion, and disability.
No, why I asked that, because recently on your website, WA website, there was a press statement that read, this was in Malay, so the Joint Action Group for Gender Equality, JAG, membantah sekeras-kerasnya kenyataan Ketua Polis Kelantan Datuk Muhammad Yusof Mamat yang mencadangkan agar kanak-kanak perempuan dalam kes suka sama suka turut didakwa. Kenyataan ini bukan sahaja mengukuhkan naratif bahaya seperti menyalahkan mangsa, malah gagal mengutamakan kepentingan terbaik kanak-kanak. Now let's assume...
Okay. Do a quick translation, my apologies.
Okay, so basically this statement is against the fact of the statement released by the head of police saying that the girl in that rape case actually was consensual. She was consensual, right? And so the JAG are saying that this statement is affirming the narrative of victim blaming and does not prioritize the importance of children or protection of children. So my thing is that let's assume that if this statement were true, that the girl, it was consensual, why isn't the girl responsible? Why aren't we holding children to the same standards? Why are the boys punished so harshly and the girl gets away? Why are we doing that?
How do we know it was consensual?
No, that was what the statement raised. But I'm saying, assuming that she is, shouldn't all be punished equally?
Good point. But I don't know how by punishing everyone is going to solve the problem. In what way punished? That she consented if she was underage?
She was underage, yeah.
Okay. So the law is very clear about underage. So do you, unless and until you remove the law, there are many reasons why a girl would consent to being raped. I mean, who would want to be raped?
No, she didn't consent to be raped. It was consensual act of entry.
Sorry, I didn't mean.
Apologies.
But
But the label thrown on it was rape, and so the boys are now, I think they have been not charged, but there is a heavy sentence hanging on them.
I know there's been discussions about how the girl should be punished too. So I really don't have the answer for that because I'm very clear about what the law is, and if she's underage, then it's statutory rape. And I've dealt with cases where it is underage. Whether she was coaxed into it, threatened, I don't know. So in this particular case, I don't know. I really wouldn't have the answer.
Now, we hear, and Tamyra, I'll point this to you now, we hear cases where teachers are transferred after charges are filed.
Yeah.
Even, and recently as well, we heard, it was in the news, cover-ups at the highest levels, right? So, when you talk about manosphere, the content part, you talk about the content part that's influencing children, right? Could it also be that the real issue is that it's a rigged system, that this problem has been left to fester, and that is why today we are just seeing all the gases coming out of the ground because it's left there to fester for so long.
I think definitely teachers and higher ups often covering up cases of bullying. I mean, this happened in my school as well, where cases of bullying were often swept under the carpet, were often ignored.
What school was that?
Oh, let's not name the school. But definitely, it's been happening for a long time. Bullying has been a problem for a long time. And often it's because of that fear of reporting, because teachers would say, oh, what's the big deal? Who cares? And they would just sweep it, ignore it. That's how it leaves to fester, like you said.
I know, and I agree with Tamyra, but also we've been lobbying and advocating for comprehensive education. Okay, comprehensive sex education, comprehensive education. But there has not been a move towards that. I mean, talk about respect, there's this fear that they're going to have sex if we talk about comprehensive sexual education.
I never understood
so
that.
If you're going to be limited in your thoughts and stopping our children from learning about safe sex, then it's our fault. As parents, as the ministry, as the government, it's our fault. It's festered and it's coming out. And if we don't hit the deal down, I don't know what's going to happen to my grandchildren's,
It's scary. It's very scary. Now, another point that I think you all brought up was the comparison between restorative justice and punitive justice. So, Meera, I'll start with you. Which is more effective?
I would say definitely I'll push for restorative, but also it depends on the if it's the crime, or we would say if it's a sexual assault, you can't have restorative justice. If it's a kind of situation where basically you want both parties to heal, the kind of depends on the type of bullying. But if even each victim, the bullying, the mental impact differs. So it really has to be an investigative matter. And hopefully the tribunal will be able to assess whether it should be restorative justice and what is the impact it has been, because you can't have hard and fast rule for everyone.
But in such a case, and Tamyra, you can please answer this, in such a case when things are getting so bad, again, yes, the argument is maybe last time without social media we didn't know. That's a possible argument. But let's assume now this is the fact and now it's the way it is. Even as a parent myself, this is one too many, right? Shouldn't we make examples of perpetrators? Shouldn't we not talk about rehabilitation so that it may deter others from committing the same crime?
I think like Meera mentioned, it depends on the crime. If it's like sexual violence, like what happened in Malacca, that I don't think restorative justice is going to work, because for sexual offenders, it is very difficult to rehabilitate a sexual offender in society. So maybe punitive justice would work. Again, it depends on a case by case basis. I wouldn't say sensationalizing the perpetrator is going to do any good. What's the point in that? I understand your point of making an example, but also I really don't think publicly naming and shaming the perpetrators, especially if bullying perpetrators are minors, I really don't think it's a good idea to do that.
But they didn't think about it when they were raping or committing such heinous crimes. Why should we give them any?
Restorative justice you can't when it comes to rape and all that, because then it comes under criminal law. So it's taken away from restorative justice, because I think the tribunal that we are pushing for is restorative justice. So that area will not, that beyond the jurisdiction of the tribunal.
Like, but there are other cases, for example, like, aside from sexual violence, you talk about bullying, for example. Even bullying that isn't physical bullying is still wrong because you know you have power over the person's mind.
Correct.
And that's for me worse than beating a person because once you have power over their mind, you control them. And we've seen the cases where, people commit
Emotional
suicide.
abuse.
Yeah. So again, is any case, which cases do you all recommend we use restorative justice?
It's hard to give a hard and fast rule. So I think the tribunal, whoever is involved with the investigation, will have to decipher what were the steps what happened in that case, and you need a psychologist to have a psychological impact on the victim, and also the behavioral therapy that the perpetrator has to go through to change. And I believe whether it's sexual violence or rape by the perpetrator, people can change. I feel that it can, but it takes a lot of work. But there are cases, many cases where people, perpetrators have changed their ways.
If we were to practice restorative justice, would that give another sort of security or an escape for these perpetrators? We've seen cases where murderers who commit murder then plead insanity. Not all the time they are. So isn't that the same
You
thing?
can plead whatever you want. It really depends on the evidence and the judge.
Okay. So the judges have to be more strict and okay, fine.
I caught you there.
Tell me that, yeah. Damn it. How long have you been studying law? Anyway, practicing law, sorry. Okay, but interesting enough, WAO had in fact called for reform way back earlier. In 2019, you asked for it to be mandatory for teachers to report all cases of suspected child abuse under the Child Act 2001. In 2021, you asked for the government to table the sexual harassment bill.
Yeah.
Now, how did y'all know? Why did y'all push for this so early on? It seems like
we were pushing for it much earlier than that, actually.
What were y'all seeing that were making y'all push for these reforms?
Because of the cases that come to us. Not just WAO, but other organizations and media reporting. In fact, it's I think in the 1990s we pushed for sexual harassment bill.
1990?
Yeah, much earlier on. It's just the lobbying. We had so many other things to lobby for, and the priority taken by different ministries was not there because we pushed for Domestic Violence Act. Similarly with SH, sexual harassment. Gender equality bill was also, actually, we started off with gender equality bill. That's what the CEDAW committee had recommended in 2000. I can't remember the year. But the gender equality bill, the ministry was working with us, WAO, during that time. But unfortunately, that was put aside for various reasons. That's another talk show podcast, and the concentration was then moved towards sexual harassment.
I see. Now, I would like your definition. Go a bit off tangent a bit, but because of your years of experience, what do you mean when you say gender equality? This is not related to this, but this is just something I would like to know.
Okay, actually, it's very basic that we all want to be treated equally, with respect, and we should have equal opportunities because the playing field is never equal with us. I see that even within my legal profession, equal opportunities. What's the other ones? Equal
pay.
Equal pay.
No. The CEDAW, the three areas. Forget suddenly. Yeah, but there must be.
Stop looking at your phone.
I wish it was here. You see, I didn't bring my phone.
Such a conversation.
Yeah, no, but there must be equal access. And to have equal access, equal opportunities, you assume the playing field is equal, but it's not. So that's where we push for gender equality.
Okay.
It is not just equality in form, but in substance. Yeah.
Now, Tamyra, since you are, I guess, in the best to comment on this, in our last interview as well, we discussed how these cases are getting younger and younger.
Yes.
Right? In your experience, what are you seeing on the ground that maybe is resulting that where younger and younger people are expressing so much aggression?
In terms of violence, like why?
Yes.
Okay. I would say it's a lot of factors, and
Don't say manosphere again, please.
No, so it's all the things that we talked about.
Okay.
It's the lack of conversations about things like emotional regulation. Children are not taught how to regulate and process these emotions. I think the other day I saw an Instagram reel in Singapore. This psychologist was talking and dissecting this young boy's conversation about how he wanted to kill and stab his classmate. And she was saying that, yes, it's because it's this lack of emotional regulation that is not being taught at home. Parents should encourage their kids to talk about their feelings, talk about their emotions. Because nowadays, parents working don't really have much time to talk to their kids about these things. Talk to their kids about their day, or talk to their kids about stuff like that. And definitely parents can also model that behavior at home. Model what it is to be a good person. We talk about a big game about empathy, kindness, respect, all those things, compassion. But as parents, is it being modeled to kids? Are we showing that to kids?
So the fact that kids don't have as much empathy as maybe children of previous generations boils down to only that fact, parents?
I wouldn't really go as far as to say that, no, but it's a contributing factor. There are lots of contributing factors like online content. I'm not going to say it again.
Thank you.
But it's also things like, it's a lot. Video games, online content, it's all of it amalgamated together and contribute. And of course, like you said earlier, sweeping under the carpet. Schools and administrations, whenever it's the first verbal aggression, what do? They don't do anything because they don't see it as a big deal. They see it as an inconvenience to them, so they just sweep it, ignore it.
So how do we bring back this empathy then that's lost over the generations?
It's with the schools talking about it, in family circles, and amongst your friends. I think it's very important. Peers talking about empathy. To do that, you must have a structure of what empathy is about. How do you include it in your syllabus, school curriculum? For me, when we first started speaking about safe school, why would a child want to have a safe school? And what is it about the education? It is not just about academic, When my kids were young, I chose a school that it's not just about academic qualifications. It was very important for me, the co-curriculum, the sports that they were involved with, the drama, the music, all this plays a part. And when it brings children together, because in sports you have to play together, that respect is, you sort of build a unit in the games, So all these are important tools to talk about fostering unity. It is not just, let's have a sit down and have a discussion. You can't do that. You need a role play. Okay, then have someone who plays out, as a bully and show the impact of what it is to be on the victim. And for them to understand and then have a discussion in school. I think those kind of things are more useful than just having, posters out, or media posters and things like that. No, you got to break it down,
If it takes a village to raise a child, then what's the village doing wrong that we are raising children like this today?
Everybody's not upping the game. Not taking responsibility. The fact that you leave all the digital devices to the children and you don't monitor the kind of content that they read, and you don't. Although there are so many lobby groups who are pushing for comprehensive education, sex education, you're not listening. Everybody's not playing their role. So aggression it's been simmering, and then it will just erupt now We have pockets of it. I don't know. It's only what is reported. But there are definitely so many unreported cases going on.
You talked about sex education again. It's one could make the assumption that why it's being delayed in implementation is because there's sort of religious aspects to be considered as well, sensitivities to be considered.
What sensitivities I want to know?
Because if a government acknowledges sex education, it could give bullets to the opposition or bullets to people to say like, look, this is not our value to teach this.
So it depends. What do you mean by sex education? It's not like teaching them how to have sex. That's not sex education. Yeah. So that understanding, that misconception has to be debunked, It's talking about respect, knowing your body, knowing your autonomy. You have a right to say no.
Yeah.
You do not enter that sphere where you're crossing the boundaries of another person, whether it's same sex or different gender, So that is what sex education is also about. So this misconception, it's very sad that we are not listening to people who are working in that area.
So you're saying that the reason why it's not being implemented now is because of the misconceptions around it?
I think, of course.
Okay. That is the reason. So, but now let's go to a bit on reforms. The Education Minister has just announced some of the reforms, which are stricter enforcement of dangerous bans and dangerous items, enhanced student mental health and psychosocial support ecosystems. She's also talked about reproductive and social health education programs, more frequent spot checks, continued school physical safety audit, review of SOPs for bullying and sexual misconduct cases, and more engagement sessions with the stakeholders, which are parents, teachers, and all. Is this a good start?
Yeah, but we've been doing this for so long. We've been having engagements, but I want to see it happening, action. It's always let's have a discussion, let's have a seminar, let's have a workshop. I think we all are tired of that.
You want action?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, you're a parent yourself. Yeah. So do you have discussions with your child?
Yes, all the time. We talk. I mean, not about. I'll leave that to my wife.
You see, then you talk about gender equality and suddenly this is leaving it to the wife.
The ministry has also called for strengthening of the role of PTA and local communities in ensuring security aspects of the institutions can be improved. So in your opinion, what should PTAs do to make our schools safer?
Asking me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
PTAs, I think having this, as I said, I'm repeating myself, the workshops, role play, getting the kids to come up with guidelines and what makes me safe as a child in this school? Why is it I don't feel safe going into that area? Maybe because it's a bit dark. Nobody's monitoring. Who is bullying you? Who are the A people? Because you could have an anonymous survey too, Then you get actually feedback as to what is actually happening in schools when you have anonymous survey, So these are, for me, are actionable items. Okay. That is more important for me. So PTA can be involved in pushing for that.
Do you think, Tamyra, that we've been fair to teachers? And I ask this because in one of my previous episodes, this one I had teachers and psychologists. I think we went pretty hard on teachers on that episode. They were not happy. But what role do you think teachers play? Should they also shoulder a bit of the burden for what's happening?
I think, like Meera mentioned, it takes a village. So I think everyone should bear equal brunt of the responsibility. I mean, it's not fair to be hard on teachers, but if teachers are the ones that sometimes are perpetrators of the bullying, or sometimes teachers ignore cases of bullying, then I do think we need to be a bit harder on them. But everyone should bear the brunt of the responsibility when it comes to like bullying cases or anything like that.
Do you think, Meera, that we should protect our teachers from the parents? Because sometimes I feel teachers are stuck in this sort of limbo. If they reprimand the child, they are scolded by the parents.
Yeah.
And then maybe the school loses a child in terms of tuition fees. So they're just being pushed around. Are we fair to them?
I mean, there are many cases that happens like that, but also, again, no hard and fast rule. if an incident like that happens, then you have to bring the parent and teacher together.
Yeah.
You need to mediate and step in immediately that it does not get out of hand. And of course, I think you need a third party from outside. You cannot have the principal because you will say, the parent will say you're siding the teacher. And so I think a mediator has to come in to step in.
I'm sure you've read all the things that MOE is doing now.
I heard, yes,
you
but
heard.
I've not read in full.
Right.
Yeah.
In your experience working with ministries and all that, do you think they are in the right, I mean, are they responding in the right way? Is it just reactive? Is it trying to cover themselves? Do you think what they're doing is actually
To
solving?
put me on spot about MOE. I hope they are doing in the right direction. I hope they're coming up with concrete solutions. I hope there will be a tribunal. And I hope the policies that they come up with is also with the discussions from children and university students also. Let's not forget that, because they themselves who go through a lot of bullying.
Yeah, sexual harassment.
Boarding schools. And again, I want to stress disability, persons with disability too. They go through a lot of harassment and bullying. And I mean, a child who has a lisp gets teased.
Yeah.
Who has polio gets teased. So where is the empathy? What are the what kind of how do you address that kind of bullying? And we need to talk about inclusiveness there. That is for me very important. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, I just want to get, just to end it on this, I'll start with you, Tamyra. From the Women's Aid Organization, if you could sum it up, how would you make our schools safe?
I mean, like what we've been talking about so far, definitely that tribunal needs to be set up ASAP so that, both perpetrators and victims of bullying can get the justice that they deserve. Making a safer school, definitely implementing, empathy, respect, compassion, kindness, teaching that and cultivating it all around, not just in school, but also at home. And from, online content that children are consuming. Children can model more positive online content. There's plenty out there. There's plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Miss Rachel, for example, she's a great, positive, and wonderful influence for children. So I think definitely it's an all hands on deck effort for sure. So that's what I would like to say.
Meera, what do you? What would you want to be done? The most urgent.
Wow, so many. I think MOE has to be a bit more transparent in what they're doing so that we are all aware, and we as NGOs, as CSOs, we will lend support and also bring in the children in to ask them, what is it that you want? How can we make it better?
Okay. Thank you guys so much for being on this podcast and doing
Thank
this
you for
episode.
having us.
I hope you guys had fun. I had a lot of fun talking to you. Please come back. So guys, that was Meera Samanther and Tamyra Selvarajan from the Women's Aid Organization. We were discussing how to make our schools safe. Please share your thoughts in the comments section on what you think should be done, what should be the first most urgent action to be done, or even comment on what is already being planned and being done. So thank you guys so much again.
Thank you.
We have more episodes coming from Women's Aid Organization on various topics. So we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye.